Hare Krishna.
Ready? Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayana, unto Narayana Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Srinvatam Swakata Krishna,
Srinvatam Swakata Krishna,
Punya Shravana Kirtanaha,
Punya Shravana Kirtanaha,
Vidyantasko hi Bhadrani,
Vidyantasko Bhadrani,
Vidunoti Suritsatam,
Vidunoti Suritsatam.
Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, super soul, and the Lord's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Nashtapaishu Bhadreshu, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya,
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya,
Bhagavati Utamashloke,
Bhagavati Utamashloke,
Bhagavati Naistiki,
Bhakti Bhakti Naistiki.
By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So we have a reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 2. I have it on my phone, but it's nice to have a book open too. It's 7th canto. It doesn't look like chapter 2. It has 7th canto. Everything about, anyway, I got my phone. I'm not going to dig through the books.
We entered a time warp.
That must be it. That's it.
The 7th canto, it's 7 years later.
Yeah.
But we stay the same age.
Anyway, Canto 2 entitled The Lord in the Heart, Chapter 2, The Lord in the Heart, and the verse is 16. Mana, Swa, Budhya, Malaya, Niyamya, Mana, Swa, Budhya, Malaya, Niyamya, Let me try it again. Mana, Swa, Budhya, Malaya, Niyamya, Kshetra, Ya, Etam, Ninayat, Tam, Atmani, Kshetra, Ya, Etam, Ninayat, Tam, Atmani, Atmanam, Atmani, Avarudhya, Dhiro, Atmanam, Atmani, Avarudhya, Dhiro, Labdopashantir, Virameta, Krityat, Labdopashantir, Virameta, Krityat, Manaswabudhya, Malaya, Niyamya, Kshetragya, Etam, Ninayat, Tamatmani, Atmanam, Atmani, Avarudhya, Dhiro, Labdopashantir, Virameta, Krityat, Manaswabudhya, Malaya, Niyamya,
I'm sorry, this is
No, except that everywhere the lines is hidden and
Oh, the
the
lines
last
are-
words or two just disappear. I have to get like this.
Does that make a difference?
It's like the TV antenna thing, you know? No, not me. Or just
And now look at Prabhu, now he cannot see. It's always something around here.
Okay.
Can you see it?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Wait, we don't have a new dark marker yet, do we?
I want one, but it's just not doing as good as that.
Really?
A big huge one.
Huh.
I can see everything clearly.
Everybody sit next to Sri Devi.
Well, I can see good now.
Okay. Manaswabudhya, Malaya, Niyamya, Kshetragya, Etam, Ninayat, Tamatmani, Atmanam, Atmani, Avarudhya, Dhiro, Labdopashantir, Viramita, Krityat, Manaswabudhya, Malaya, Niyamya, Kshetragya, Etam, Ninayat, Tamatmani, Atmanam, Atmani, Avarudhya, Dhiro, Labdopashantir, Viramita, Krityat,
Question, Dira or Diro?
Dhiro, it says here.
Diro?
On my phone, it's Dhiro.
It's probably O there, but I'm looking.
No, look, I didn't realize it's O. I wrote it as A. Okay, yeah, A.
Oh, okay.
Just a little.
Yeah. In the word meanings, it is AH, dot. But here it's pronounced O, yes.
Zero.
Sanskrit makes some changes adjusting for the sentence it's in sometimes.
My teacher trained me well. Teacher, that's you.
Mana swabudhiyamalala niyamya Mana swabudhiyamalala niyamya Kshetragya itam Ninayettamatmani Atmana Atmani Avarujadiro Lagdo Pashante Virameta Krityat
Manaswabudayam malavaniyamya
Manasvabudhyayamya
Chechiganitam ninayetamatmani
Kshetragyanitamatmani
Atmanamatmani arvarudyatiro
Atmanamatmani Avarujadiro
Bhakto pashantir virametya kritya
Lagdo Pashante Virameta Krityat
I guess ladies, you're not going to do? No.
Manaswabuddhya malaya niyamya Kshetrajna etam ninayettamatmani
Kshetragyanitamatmani
Atmanamatmanya varudyadiro
Atmanamatmani Avarujadiro
Labdho pashantir virameta krityat
Lagdo Pashante Virameta Krityat
Mana swabudhiyamalaya nimyamya
Manasvabudhyayamya
Kshetrajyanitam ninayettamatmani
Kshetragyanitamatmani
Atmanamatmani avirudeyatiro
Atmanamatmani Avarujadiro Lagdo Pashante Virameta Krityat
Manasvabuddhyamalaya niyamya
Manasvabudhyayamya
Kshetrajna etam ninayetamatmani
Kshetragyanitamatmani
Atmanamatmanya varudyadhiro
Atmanamatmani Avarujadiro
Labdho pashanti virameta kritya
Lagdo Pashante Virameta Krityat
Word meanings. Manaha, the mind.
The mind.
Swabudhya,
Swabudhya,
by his own intelligence.
by his own intelligence.
Amalaya,
Amalaya,
unalloyed.
unalloyed.
Niyamya,
Niyamya,
by regulating.
by regulating.
Kshetragye,
Kshetrage,
unto the living entity.
unto the living entity.
Etam,
Etam,
all of them.
all of them.
Ninayet,
Niyayet,
merge.
merge.
Tam,
Tam,
that.
that.
Atmani,
Atmani,
the self.
the self.
Atmanam,
Atmanam,
the self.
the self.
Atmani,
Atmani,
in the super self.
in the super self.
Avarudhya,
Avaruja,
being locked up.
being locked up.
Dhiraha,
Deraha,
the fully
the
satisfied.
fully satisfied.
Labdha upashanti,
Labdha upashantaye,
one who has attained full bliss.
one who has obtained full bliss.
The word is interesting. Upashanti. Shanti is peace, right? Upa is like, I don't know what upa is, maybe closer or something like what's upa? Like Upanishads, you draw closer to the spiritual master. So you get closer to the
peace.
Yes, that's interesting. Virameta
Virameta
ceases from.
Krityat
Krityat
All other activities.
all other activities.
Okay, translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Thereafter, the yogi should merge his mind by his unalloyed intelligence into the living entity, and then merge the living entity into the superself. And by doing this, the fully satisfied living entity becomes situated in the supreme stage of satisfaction, so that he ceases from all other activities. Please repeat. Thereafter, the yogi should merge his mind
The yogi should merge his mind
by his unalloyed intelligence into the living entity, and then merge the living entity into the superself. And by doing this, the fully satisfied living entity becomes situated in the supreme stage of satisfaction, so that he ceases
from all other activities.
Purport. The functions of the mind are thinking, feeling, and willing. When the mind is materialistic or absorbed in material contact, it acts for material advancement of knowledge, destructively ending in discovery of nuclear weapons. But when the mind acts under spiritual urge, it acts wonderfully for going back home, back to Godhead, for life in complete bliss and eternity. Therefore, the mind has to be manipulated by good and unalloyed intelligence. Perfect intelligence is to render service unto the Lord. One should be intelligent enough to understand that the living being is, in all circumstances, a servant of the circumstances, it says here. Every living being is serving the dictates of desire, anger, lust, illusion, insanity, and enviousness, all materially affected. But even while executing such dictations of different temperaments, he's perpetually unhappy. When one actually feels this, and turns his intelligence to inquiring about it from the right sources, he gets information of the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Instead of serving materially for the above-mentioned different humors of the body, the living entity's intelligence then becomes freed from the unhappy illusion of materialistic temperament, and thus, by unalloyed intelligence, the mind is brought into the service of the Lord. The Lord and his service are identical, being on the absolute plane. Therefore, the unalloyed intelligence and the mind are merged into the Lord, meaning into the service of the Lord. And thus the living entity does not remain a seer himself, but becomes seen by the Lord transcendentally. When the living entity is directly seen by the Lord dictates to him to act according to his desire, capital H. And when the living entity follows him perfectly, the living entity ceases to discharge any other duty for his small h only, his illusory satisfaction. In his small h, pure unalloyed state, the living being attains the stage of full bliss, Madhava-priya, and ceases all material inquiries. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. Now for my respectful obeisances and living. So, I'm not going to be able to explain how the living entity ceases to be a seer and becomes seen. I'm not going to be able to explain that. But the super soul and then the heart explain it to everybody. I can't do that one. But otherwise, first thing I notice is intelligence. First thing I think of in Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna first starts talking about Bhakti Yoga, introduced in the form of Karma Yoga, which is to do your karma for Krishna, he doesn't call it either Karma Yoga or Bhakti Yoga, he calls it Buddhi Yoga. So you have to use your intelligence so you have you get this information in your intelligence, and your intelligence then controls your mind and engages you in this yoga of linking with the Supreme. So it's Buddhi Yoga as Krishna first explains it, then he gets more specific and discusses Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. So then, let's see. Mind, intelligence, and soul, 342. 342 of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains the order of things. So, I'm going to read the Sanskrit story. The working senses, I can't see it very well. The working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind. And he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. I love with the Sanskrit. I have these. Indriyani Puranyahur Indriyedya Param Manaha Manasastu Para Buddhir Yogudhe Paratastu Saha. I'm going to read that again because I'm interrupted. The working senses are superior to dull matter. Okay, first you got dull matter in your body, then the working senses. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind, and he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. So that's a hierarchy of things. And then we have in the Srimad Bhagavatam 2:35 to
2:35.
Yeah, just a little bit later in this chapter, something I often quote. Because it's pretty cool. It's in purple. That verse is the great personality of Brahma, with great attention and concentration of the mind, studied the Vedas 3 times, and after scrutinizingly examining them, he ascertained that attraction for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is the highest perfection of religion. Okay. Did I write this down right? It's 35 is supposed to be. That was 34. It's supposed to be 35. Sorry. The personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, is in every living being along with the individual soul. And this fact is perceived and hypothesized in our acts of seeing and taking help from the intelligence. Okay, we perceive and hypothesize or figure it out that the super soul is in the heart when we do this act of seeing and taking help from the intelligence. So we can perceive this, and here's why. I can't find it now. It's a form direction verse. If I have to go the other route, I have to make it highlighted with yellow. What is it in this book? It's much easier when you do a word search. Where's direction here? It's much easier to find.
Is it form direction?
Yes. Form direction. I have to go the search route and then direction. Come to Srimad Bhagavatam, down to Canto 2, Chapter 2. There we go. Now it will be highlighted for me. There it is. Okay, clicking on the wrong side of the page. So, actually the Lord is not perceivable by our present materialized senses, but when one is convinced of the presence of the Lord by a practical service attitude, there is a revelation by the Lord's mercy. And such a pure devotee of the Lord can perceive the Lord's presence always and everywhere. He can perceive that intelligence is the form direction of the Paramatma's plenary portion of the personality of Godhead.
What verse is that?
This is 2:35 in the purport. Intelligence is the form direction of the Paramatma. How does that work? And we have in the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 10, the 4 nutshell verses, where the super soul shines the light of the transcendental knowledge. I can't even say a verse. I can say English.
Atma-Dikyan about that.
Okay, you could do that too. She can recite the Sanskrit and the English and everything, and I'm just fumbling along. Okay, to show them.
Special mercy.
This is anyways 10 and 11, chapter 10, text 10 and 11 in the Bhagavad Gita. First one is Tesham Tata Yutanam Vachitam Purvakam Tadami Yogam Tam
Yena
Mam
mam
Bayantite.
Bayantite.
We shall have a brain like that. Okay. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. I give the understanding, okay? How do you do that? We just read out, it gives a form direction through the intelligence. Text 11. Tesham evan kampartam aham adyana jam tamaha nasyam yatma bhavasto jnana bhashvata. To show this special mercy, I dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So he lights up everything in our hearts. But through intelligence, form direction, might be a slightly different angle of vision here. Intelligence is a subtle matter. We have three kinds of subtle matter: mind, intelligence, and false ego. And the mind is directing the senses, and the mind is thinking, feeling, and willing, and the mind is what we're supposed to control to go up or down, good or bad ways. And we're supposed to control with the intelligence. Why the intelligence in particular? Well, number one, the intelligence is supposed to be the power to have discretion. But intelligence has that because intelligence is the form direction of Supersoul. Supersoul knows we can't hear him. So, because he's transcendental, we're listening to our mind and to our senses, in other words, matter, subtle and gross matter. So, we are not going to be able to hear Supersoul. So, Supersoul takes intelligence and forms it to give us direction. So we consult our intelligence, we're consulting Supersoul. So, where's the thread here? Is this the verse? Let's see. Maybe 2:16. Make sure we're still tuned into the footnote here. So we're talking about merging now. This is really interesting because we're supposed to talk about merging. Now we always say, we don't merge, we're eternal spirit souls. And yet here is the same word, merging, being used. But it's being used in a different sense. It's like what's the other word I was thinking of? Understanding the origin of something, to put it back in the origin. I had an easier word, huh?
Epistemology?
No, I had an easier word than that. And I can't think of it now, of course. But anyways, we're thinking of the origin of things and the nature of where things came from, and to understand them, not actually merging and ceasing to exist. Not actually like that. So, creation expands from one element coming out from another, coming out. And so when we're winding up, it comes pulled back in, at least with the mind. So we're all spending our whole lifetime running around, all expanded in our understanding of things. We've got all our senses, we've got our mind, we've got our life and everything. We're all expanded out. And then when the end starts coming near, we're supposed to draw it in, and so we won't be attached. In those words, you draw it in to understand the origin of things. So let me look at it. I wish I could push this. If you have a book, you can put, but it's all different books anyways. So I went 12, 14. I'm going to talk about the elements. 12, 14 through 19. Dissolution. Okay, first I'll talk about each element. Talk about the elements. This is how creation happens. So first of all, there's the Mahatattva, then there's the modes of nature and the Mahatattva. Then there's false ego. Then each one comes out from the one before. So when, I can't say the first part's quite right, false ego and mind, because they don't seem to be exactly in the same order. But anyways, once you have mind, then you have false ego comes the sky. Anyways, you have no qualities, then you have sound. When Mahavishnu is creating the qualities that are going to be used in forming creation, he first creates the qualities, and he has the first comes sound, and then so there's ether. And then from that, he glances over it, and he adds, by his glance and by the desire for touch, he adds air. So then in space, we can feel the air move. So then he wants more, so and by glancing over it and by desiring form, there is light. So there's fire and electricity. Then by wanting taste, right, then he glances over it and adds the element of taste, and there's water. It comes out, each one comes out of the other one. And finally earth, because he desires smell. So out from water comes earth. And then all the senses are active. And then after that, creation can take place, but Brahma's creation can take place. Out of all this formed material, he can create bodies. Everybody's whispering to I'm having enough trouble concentrating as it is without losing my train of thought. Everybody's whispering. So I'm having trouble thinking today. So this is how things come out from each other and expand into all the varieties. So when the dissolution comes in 12th canto, it's really interesting. I'm going to the 12th canto, and it's in 14th chapter. 14th chapter? Oh, there's no 14th chapter. What is this? I wrote this wrong. I'm sorry, everybody. 4. Okay, not 14, but 4.
The 4 categories
Okay.
of universal annihilation.
12:4:14. As the entire universe is flooded, the water will rob the earth of its unique quality of fragrance. This is the end. The water will rob the earth of its unique quality of fragrance. So where did it come from? It came from the water, and then it expanded to earth. So the water soaks it up again. The element earth, deprived of its distinguishing quality, which is what? Fragrance. Then it will be dissolved. So no more earth anymore. Okay, then 15 through 19 goes like this. The element fire then seizes the taste from the element water, which, deprived of its unique quality, taste, merges into fire. Air seizes the form inherent in fire, and then fire, deprived of form, merges into air. The element ether seizes the quality of air, namely touch, and that air enters into ether. Then, O king, so now you've got where there's no senses anymore. No. Then, O king, false ego in ignorance seizes sound, quality of ether, after which ether merges into false ego. False ego in the mode of passion takes hold of the senses, and false ego in the mode of goodness absorbs the demigods. Then the total Mahatattva seizes false ego, along with its various functions, and that Mahat is seized by the 3 basic modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. My dear King Parikshit, these modes are further overtaken by their original unmanifest form of nature impelled by time. That unmanifest nature is not subject to the 6 kinds of transformation caused by the influence of time. Rather, it has no beginning and no end. It is the unmanifest, eternal, and infallible cause of creation. It's hard to imagine. It's sort of like that point of singularity almost. But it doesn't have any space. It doesn't have anything. It's just, it exists eternally as Krishna's energy, unmanifested. So this is something that Parikshit Maharaj is being told by Shukadeva Goswami, because Parikshit Maharaj is facing his own death, coming like any minute now. You know, it's like on the 7th day. And so it's coming, this death. And here is Parikshit Maharaj in good physical form, still somewhat youthful, and his death is coming any day, and he knows it's coming. So Shukadeva Goswami is helping him to understand that all this material that your body is, your life, and all your attachments are made of, is going to be dissolved into nothingness almost, nothing except unmanifested Krishna's energy. totally unmanifest. It's all going to be just gone, all going to be undone. And so what we do when we're facing it, we do that with the mind. We withdraw with the mind. It's emerging by mental, I guess you could say by imagination, by the power of imagination to understand this and merge it into. And that's what Dhritarashtra had to do back in the first canto. This one, 13. Dhritarashtra puts home. 14 through Dhritarashtra 13, 53 through 57. Okay. 53. Dhritarashtra. Narada Muni is telling Yudhisthira, this is what Dhritarashtra is doing. On the banks of Saptashrota, Dhritarashtra is now engaged in beginning Ashtanga Yoga by bathing 3 times daily in the morning, noon, and evening, by performing the Agnihotra sacrifice with fire, and by drinking only water. This helps one control the mind and the senses, and frees one completely from thoughts of familial affection. 54. One who has controlled the sitting postures, the yogic asanas, and the breathing process can turn the senses toward the absolute personality of Godhead, and thus become immune to the contamination of the modes of material nature, namely mundane goodness, passion, and ignorance. 55. Dhritarashtra will have to, here we go, amalgamate his pure identity with intelligence, and then merge into the Supreme Being with knowledge of his qualitative oneness, as a living entity with the Supreme Brahman. Being freed from the blocked sky, he will have to rise to the spiritual sky. 56. He will have to suspend all the actions of the senses, even from the outside, and will have to be impervious to interactions of the senses, which are influenced by the modes of material nature. After renouncing all material duties, he must become immovably established beyond all sources of hindrances on the path. 57. O king, he will quit his body, most probably on the 5th day from today, and his body will burn to ashes. So you see, he amalgamated, but then you'd see later on in the verse, he's still like detached from his senses and his duties like that. So this is a thing that's done with the mind when we're facing death. We amalgamate, we pull it back in. Things that come from things, we pull them back in. So this is what's being told to let me find that original thing. The word in the heart. Okay. So Shukadeva Goswami is describing this to Parikshit Maharaj in the beginning stages. And by the end, he's going to describe it to him in this really intense way. He's going to give them the example that the whole universe is going to be wrapped up this way. There's going to be nothing left for you to be attached to. So that's just how insubstantial everything is.
What's the address on that verse?
I'm just coming back, summarizing, coming back to the verse. The verses, back to today's verse. So this is, I'm sorry, my brain is not really what I want it to be today. Never is, but especially today. So we have to use the mind. The mind is to be manipulated by good and unalloyed intelligence. So that's what we have to do. We have to strengthen our intelligence by studying Prabhupada's books and by discussing among ourselves with each other about this to understand more and more strongly. And by practicing our devotional service, which is a practice of being a spirit soul, of understanding ourselves as a spirit soul rather than mind and body. Because the things that we do for devotional service are a little different. Even though we take normal activities, we do them a little different, specifically for Krishna. And understanding that it's all about spirit, not the body. In other words, we don't just go off pleasing our senses doing these things. We rein it in and we do it structured way for Krishna. And some of the things that we do for Krishna, we wouldn't do at all, like in our team. We wouldn't be there doing it at all. Cooking, we would do it, but we take it over, we control our senses and take it to Krishna first. But the arti is a symbol of natural things we would do, but we wouldn't be standing on the altar and doing it. We do it only for Krishna. So we are practicing living as spirit souls, not as bodies and minds. So this whole way that we are living, the way we dress, the way we live, the activities that we do, how we spend 2 hours out of 3 or 4 hours chanting Hare Hare Krishna, and follow certain rules that everybody around us are following, and in the world around us. All of this is to practice to be spirit souls instead of the mind and body. Because we're accustomed for lifetimes and lifetimes to identify with mind and body and just follow the senses. So his mind is just going to be like the image in the Bhagavad Gita, the horses are the senses, and the reins are the mind, and the driver is the intelligence, and the soul is just going, ah! Because even though we imagine that we are in control, actually the soul is, in regular material life, the soul isn't controlling anything except desiring to try to enjoy, and everything happens. And sometimes horrible things happen, sometimes it's out of control, and the intelligence is being pulled by the mind, which is pulled by the senses, and it's all upside down. The actual thing that I read at first, the gross matter is there, and it's the lowest, and the senses are above it, but then above that is the mind, and above that is the intelligence, and above that is the soul. And above the soul is the super soul. I didn't say that in the verse, but above that is the super soul. If we don't connect up with the super soul and surrender to the super soul utterly, as Krishna says in 18, we'll just be lost. We'll just remain lost and be thinking that we're in control or something, and suffering all kinds of miseries and frustrations because we're actually not in control. We're still trying to think we are. And but we have to surrender utterly to the super soul. This class is about the Lord in the heart, which is the super soul, which is Krishna's portion coming with us, because Krishna doesn't want to give up our association, even though we want to give up his. So super soul has a mission. Super soul is going to take us back to Krishna. So we have to surrender to him utterly. And sometimes, and devotees in the beginning think, well, super soul is Vishnu. We're trying to serve Krishna, and Krishna's above Vishnu, and so we're going to follow, Krishna with the flute, not worship Vishnu. And you get mixed up like that. Actually, super soul, we should be worshiping super soul. It says that again and again. Prabhupada says it. We should be worshiping super soul because super soul has the mission of taking us back to Godhead. And so then we will come to Krishna. But super soul has a mission. So super soul is guiding our intelligence. We're supposed to follow our intelligence. We're supposed to educate our intelligence. And let's see, anything else? Oh, I want to read in the Bhagavad Gita about the stages. The stage of bliss. It's in the end of this. In this pure unalloyed state, the living being attains a stage of full bliss, labdhopa shanti, and ceases all material hankerings. Well, that's in Bhagavad Gita too, also. There is. There's two verses that are separated from each other, but they really go together just as if they're not one right after another. It's amazing. So in chapter 14, it ends almost the very end, second to the last verse, on this. Mamchayo vyabacharana bhakti-yogena sevate sargunan samatityaitan brahmabhuyaya kapate. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. It's interesting, it doesn't describe that here exactly, but then we got 1854. Brahmabhuta prasanatma na shochati na kankshati samasareshu bhuteshu madbhaktin lavate param. One who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed toward every living entity. In that state he attains pure devotional service unto me. So this is a description of this state that's being talked about here. Back to the verse we're on. One thing, if you have books, you flip over the pages really quickly. Yes. I'll read the verse again. Thereafter the yogi should merge his mind by his unalloyed intelligence into the living entity. So he's going to do backwards, just like I was describing. He's got his mind, by use of his unalloyed intelligence, which is now purified by spiritual knowledge, and guided by Supersoul, who this chapter is about. He will merge his mind, by his unalloyed intelligence, into the living entity, which means into the soul, right? And then merge the living entity into the super self. Not real merging, because there always is individuality, but merging by understanding the source. I'm not this mind, so pull that in. The only reason the mind has any life is because I'm in it. So by intelligence, I figure that out, and I have myself, and I merge that into the super self in the sense of merging. In the merging into the service of the super self. So a devotional service and the spiritual and the super soul are non-different from one another. Krishna and the service are non-different from one another. So you merge yourself in Krishna means you merge yourself in the service of Krishna. That was in the purport. And by doing this, the fully satisfied living entity becomes situated in the supreme stage of satisfaction, so that he ceases from all other activities. You become so satisfied spiritually, you don't want all this material stuff. So, I'll stop there. Questions or discussions? Yeah.
That was good application. Because it's surrendering and merging through the intelligence.
Yes. You want to say, or that was what you want to say? Okay. Yes.
The dissolutions that you talk about, where everything merges back into the undifferentiated energy of Krishna, does that happen at the end of material creation?
That was, when I was reading in Canto 12, that was a description of the end of material creation. Literally, the elements go back into each other until you're back to this unformed, unmanifested material energy that's just Krishna's energy.
At the end of Rama's lifetime?
Yeah. Yes. But the soul does not lose its independence, so the merging of the soul is different. It's a mental understanding of the origin of things and the source of things. Yeah.
I'm not really clear. I mean, is that your Dakshai Vishnu that the undifferentiated energy merges back into when he's breathing?
Well, I guess at the end of Brahma's lifetime, merges back, all the way to Mahavishnu. But in the nighttime of Lord Brahma, there's another dissolution, and I don't think it goes all the way back. It's just the nighttime of Brahma, it just goes into, must be then into Kshirodakashai Vishnu, and then comes back out, and Brahma creates again.
The full dissolution that you're describing is like when
The end of everything.
the end of everything.
Yes, and because a few verses before that, Brahma has gone back to Godhead. So, yeah.
And it was asked in a class, does that mean everything goes back and merges? And it's not everything, because in Krishna, where Krishna is, that's not...
That part remains as it is.
Exactly. So
yes.
if you want to be in the good part of town, you can be in the best part of town. If you want to get sucked in, then hang around and just diddle-daddle and don't act on...
You wouldn't actually see it. You would be the great sages like Shukadeva Goswami. They can see with their spiritual vision, but nobody's going to be left alive in a body by that point in time, because first of all, there's this, I forgot which comes first, but there's flooding that drowns everything, and there's fire that burns everything up, and like that. So in one order or the other, they happen, and then the elements just go back into each other. So when we are merging, we do by our intelligence, we understand. We're still in a body. We're still, when the great devotees do this, they're still in a body, but they're now detached from everything. Because by mental power, by the mind, guided by the intelligence, they have detached and understood the source of everything and how to pull it back. So they're no longer attached to this, as it put somewhere, this world of names. They're not attached to it. It's just all inward and all about Krishna. Which, in a way, we're supposed to live our lives so that we're slowly doing that. And not supposed to be increasing our attachments. We're supposed to be understanding them and like decreasing, pulling in our spiritual life. And all the structure of our spiritual life and all the guidelines and everything, rules and regulations, everything is for that purpose, to support that kind of direction. Yeah.
That was a good explanation, point about the life, the style of life that a devotee has is to prepare for going back to Godhead. So it's not like, well, this is too austere or this is weird compared to the rest of the world and they don't do it this way. Why don't we do it?
They do not have the same purpose we have. And people, we have to understand. Sometimes we forget in the nitty gritty of the difficulty of the austerities and everything. We may forget. We're tired. We have to do service, and it becomes like a hard thing to do. We forget that the whole purpose is designed to help us slowly do this merging, amalgamating, detaching, so that in the end we're ready. It's not just that somehow, in the end, if we could just be lucky enough to remember Krishna, boom, we can go back to God after not working on it all our life. But all our life we're working on sorting out which is the true thing and which is not. So all our life we're working on that. Should be making progress that way. And the whole life structure of being a devotee supports it.
Thank you very much.
Haribol.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry that I was sort of like slow-brained.